So why don't we see if we can come up with one or two that we all want to talk about? We haven't had this problem before. This is a good problem to have. We have lots of interesting stuff, but we want to make this meeting as interesting and fun for everybody that's here as possible. So, any recommendations, and we can put them to a quick. Let's keep in the right frame. Let's see if we can reach consensus on what to talk about first, and if not, then we'll have to put it to a vote.
That sounds pretty complicated. I mean,
well, what do we want to talk about? It might not be complicated at all. I mean, there's a bunch of things. Just looking at the excitements, Holochain came up a lot.
Well, in terms of
Dig Life came up a lot, and we can carry that on from the last meeting.
Well,
what do we want to talk about? Yeah.
Maybe we want to talk about the thing that we are not all excited about and have been avoiding, which is what Ken was talking about, the, doing something profitable, because I don't have a clue. I don't know what's going on with, I guess the MaxForce thing isn't going to happen, or if it does, we don't know when. How important is that to us? Because, I mean, we're going to get funding from our chain to work on other projects. So to me, that's kind of seems like enough, but I want to make sure for now, my thought is that we would just work on the BYOID stuff and the identity ebook, and then figure out kind of what our next thing would be, but we're not on the same page about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think because identity is a prerequisite to anything, and we live in a deploy or die world. No one is going to take us seriously until we've delivered something, and there's a lot of shortcuts to delivering a BYOID, and there's a lot of progress in working on it now, and more potential cooperations. I mean, we have the ZK snarks with Sovereign. We can have many components to our system, and we will have many systems because our universal identity is going to support them all, not just one, ultimately. But now OAuth 2 is letting us, Joachim has begun the process of collecting your identities from all the servers you belong to, so that you can be authenticated in the dashboard of the social ledger. And the fact that he's taking this on, I mean, he finally figured out what we were doing or what we were trying to do. And he said, oh, I can do that. So in many aspects, I mean, I also, spoke to the lead of Blue quite a bit at the IIW, and he's really, putting a label on glue has a lot of use cases that it can solve, and he's really showing a strong willingness to support us without us having to pay for support. And so, I mean, we have a lot of opportunities here. What we don't have is the organization. We don't have organization, an organizer in the BYOID project that's taking an active role in organizing that project. And, I'm with Gary. I'm involved in so many things right now that are so related and essential, and are really, using my skills better than, if I was involved in organization of this project, along with, being on the governance of several other projects, trying to organize them at the same time.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna use that as a segue then into a question I have that applies to Divvy doing profitable things and everything else that's going on. I'm still trying to come to grips with the apparent dichotomy between putting together organized, as you say, organizing projects and getting things moving, and the underlying nobody can tell anybody what to do. We all do what we want to do, and if we all do what we want to do, things will magically appear on their own. Mentality that a lot of people in the community seem to adhere to.
Yeah, the big life philosophy is that if you have an idea of a possibility and people buy into that possibility, you'll find the people to do the work, or the people will find you to do the work. I can't remember the reference on that, but there's two sides to the story. I mean, clearly, if I didn't have to worry about the project logs and the images showing up on the and the cron jobs and stuff like that, things would be better. And it's a matter, what our chain has done is they brought people into their vision, into their dream. And that's what we have not done. And we're, telling each other what to do isn't going to fix that.
I think our issue is one of scale, though. All right, and I think I've mentioned this to you too. I've read, I read the Swarm book. All right, excellent thought, but the reality is the application that he, and the example that runs all the way through that whole book and that whole premise is something that, first of all, by its very nature, has a potentially huge audience. B, it was the kind of project that had lots and lots of parts that did not require any technical expertise and really only required desire to be part of the group. All right, and when you're talking about an election campaign, which is what Swarmwise was all about, that works. All right, because you had something for, you can't, you can't design this or you can't do that. Go out and hand out flyers. Go man a table at a public gathering or whatever. There was lots of stuff for people to do that didn't have particular skill sets. We're trying to build software.
On the opposite side of the spectrum is our chain, which requires great skills. And, they attracted, before they had any funding, they already could demonstrate compiling Rolang and running it on a virtual machine.
But they started with a small core of people and a small basis. We're kind of all over the place.
Well,
all right, and like I said, the problem, we don't have it's a critical mass problem. All right, I don't doubt that the methodology or that the approach will work once you reach a certain critical mass. The problem is that critical mass, we're not hitting the critical mass, and we need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, and this is the thing. How do we attract people with basic skills or the willingness to learn those basic skills, so they can do all these mundane tasks that are are taking our time, so that we can focus on getting a product out the door.
Well, I think the only way the way to do that, though, and as you say, to attract people who are at least willing to learn the basic skills, we need to start fishing someplace other than our own little pool. right? And that's part of the problem. You know, I mean, how do you attract people who don't know that they want to be interested in this thing? All right. Our Slacks and our Mattermosts are filled with people who are already interested in something. All right. And if those interests don't include, you know, like I want to work on X, I don't want to work on Y, we have too many of those, which is why we have a dozen projects that aren't going anywhere. Because we have a dozen projects that don't have enough people to self-run. Now, those projects can move, all right? Now, keep in mind, by the way, for those of you who don't know me, I mean, we're talking a long-time project manager here, right? But a very open-minded project manager who's willing to try anything once and twice if I like it, and three if the first two don't kill me. But until you get to that critical mass, if you want to move stuff forward and get it more interesting, there needs to be some organization and some structure. And that might mean somebody has to do something that they're not particularly thrilled about doing just to get it done.
Yeah, and we do that. You know, there's stuff that has to be done, and we do it. We may do it reluctantly or slowly. But yeah, you know, I mean, we're on the same page in that, you know, what we need is organization in the project, and you know, whether you call that management and you know, I think that you know, it's simply a matter of defining what needs to be done and delaying the choice on who is going to do it.
Well, we can do that. I mean, one of the things that I've been thinking about, and I started to talk about this. One of the things that excited me, in fact, about the bubble diagrams that we see in the Dig Life postings. All right, we could define. I mean, you could brainstorm and define a project and break it down into components without the traditional, you know, actually this is even traditional project management. You can break down all of the small components. That's the first step of project management anyway. The second step is figuring out what order you have to do those things in to be efficient. All right. That's the part that I think we need to change in this current environment. That's the part that becomes unique. All right. And we may sacrifice efficiency in favor of, I'll call it self-gratification of the team involved. All right, so if we define Project X as needing 10 components, and then those 10 components need to be integrated. All right, in a traditional sense, we would then look at that and say, okay, well, let's build component 1, build component 2, integrate 1 to 2, now build 3 and integrate it, now build 4 and integrate it, and so forth. All right, and if we went a little further in the traditional project management realm, we would look at the beginning and say, okay, well, Jim can do elements 1, 4, and 5. So after he does 1, we can let him get started on 4 so that it's ready to go once somebody else does 2 and 3. You know, and we can build all those webs, and we've all seen those pictures and the diagrams and Gantt charts and PERT charts and all that kind of crap. We can kind of skip that and do everything. And like I said, I looked at the bubble diagram and think of this stuff in terms of bubbles. All right, and you can define the project in terms of bubbles, where the smallest bubbles are the individual components. All right, but eventually they have to get gathered into bigger bubbles, which get gathered into bigger bubbles, and finally the biggest bubble around the whole thing is the completed project. Sooner or later, the little bits and pieces are all done, and everybody involved in the project is going to look at it and say, well, gee, that's wonderful. All these pieces are done. All the things that are, you know, all of these things are done, but the integrations aren't done. So, you know, right now, if I don't just decide to go do this, nobody else is, and nothing's going to happen. So maybe we will get some self-starting and some people, again, willing, you know, voluntarily willing to do the stuff that wasn't the most exciting stuff, because once all the exciting stuff is done, you need to do the boring stuff to get it finished. All right, and something like the, like I said, the bubble diagram might be a way to graphically represent that, so people can see what needs to be done, and why their work is why the cool stuff they did last week isn't going anywhere, because there's a next step that somebody needs to step up and do. Now, like I said, we would sacrifice, again, speaking project management ease here, we're certainly going to sacrifice efficiency, by letting people pick and choose what order they want to do stuff. But if we're willing to do that, as long as everybody can see what the finished product needs to look like, and people can see where their contributions, where can they contribute now, and more importantly, where their completed contributions are languishing, that might in itself be incentive to get stuff started.
Yeah. Let me.
So I don't know. What do other people think about that?
Well, I'll say that I'm willing to do the boring stuff, but I think one of my frustrations about this is that we keep starting something, and then, somebody will do all the boring stuff, and then we abandon that and go on to something else. And, it's like, I don't mind doing the boring stuff, but I don't want to do it over and over again for stuff that never is going to go anywhere.
Right. But again, I think part of our problem is we haven't, we need to set up the vision of the completed project. And that's the part that's missing. All right. Right now, we all talk, like, even let's say BYOID. I'm sure every one of us has some foggy idea of what the finished product is supposed to look like, but we don't have a coherent vision of what the finished product is supposed to look like. And and part of that is because we haven't taken the time to figure out what all the pieces need to be, and at least where the links between those pieces need to be. Again, we don't have to fully design the whole thing. I'm not suggesting that we, spec out every last line of code and then just crunch the code. But we need to do that. I think the envisioning process needs to be top down. And then once you have it broken down into pieces that somebody can say, yeah, I can build that. All right, then you don't have to go any further. We can let people go as far as, once it gets down to the point where somebody says, I can take that piece and do it. All right, you don't have to beat that. The group doesn't have to beat that up any further. All right, but I think what we need to do is, and I don't know, maybe you mentioned that there was some brainstorming Plant Eater on BYOID. Maybe that's what we need to do, but maybe we need to, actually turn that into some kind of visible pile. Yeah, I mean, Kanban boards do the same kind of thing, although graphically I think visually they're terrible. Functionally, it's exactly what we want to do. Here's a list of all the shit that we need to get done. Somebody grab something and go do it. But it's not a good visual. I never liked it for that reason. Right. Stuff tends to end up, if the thing you're working on is the 47th thing on the list, it doesn't show up on the first screen when you look. You have to scroll to find what you're doing. Nobody even looks past the first screen. People look at the first 5 things and say, I'm not interested in that, and they move on to something else. A different visual, might be very, very helpful here. And that's why I keep asking about who it is that where that bubble diagram thing works from, because I think that's wonderful. Because it doesn't imply a hierarchy that a list implies. I mean, there is still some sort of structure in that you can define things as, a big block which consists of smaller blocks, but there's no inherent order or sequence in those smaller blocks, and that seems to be the kind of visual that we want in the environment, in the self-starter environment that we're trying to function under here. Does this make sense to people, or am I?
Yeah, no, Bob, I think I like the bubble diagram too, but what you need is someone essentially on call for all of the different operations that are taking place that would be in that bubble diagram. So in other words, you can translate an idea or you can act on the things that you're working on and immediately have them in the bubble diagram in a way that I don't know, really defines what that is. And I think the whole bubble diagram idea, to me, it's more of a forum. These are floating in space, and I've always thought of Divvy Forum as all of these things that are happening out there that are available to the community at large, and you can just pull them in. I mean, people coming in can pull in these bubbles and become part of them. And I know that's the part of the purpose of the social ledger. I embraces part of that. I just like to, I don't know, see more functionality and ability to customize and so on and so forth, and something that's releasable into the larger community.
Right, but you're describing the bubbles that exist right now that are tied off of Mattermost, which are in fact a reflection of the chat and forum structure, and I agree that that's useful too. I'm not talking about morphing what we have on Mattermost now into something else. I'm talking about a whole different use for the same visual. All right, where BYOID, I'm not talking about the BYOID forum that lived, and the picture that lives there now. I'm talking about a big bubble called BYOID. All right, and in that big bubble, what do we need to have? What are the big pieces that we need to have to define a product? And then for each of those big pieces, what smaller pieces need to get built to make that piece come into existence? Not only what pieces, but what tasks, because there's going to need to be a little bubble in there somewhere that says connect A to B. All right, somebody's going to need to do that. Once those are done, then when the tiny bubbles are done, when all of the tiny bubbles are done, the next bigger bubble is done.
Yeah.
And once that bubble is done, you can now look at the other bubbles in its level, and eventually it all percolates up until finally everything in the biggest bubble is done, and you technically at that point have a product.
Yeah, let's not cross purpose here, because this is exactly what we're trying to build, and we want you to participate in building it. We come into BYOID. We should have all of the major pieces here as channels, and in each channel, okay, we have the dig. I'll just show all the activities that are in here. Now, these need to be prioritized or tagged or flagged.
Well, see, that's the thing. They don't necessarily need to be prioritized. I mean, eventually they kind of do, but
they do.
What I'm suggesting is, rather than prioritizing them, all right, all right, yeah, let's go to this is the whole Divvy one. Go to the BYOID one. Find BYOID in there someplace.
I didn't go to BYOID. I may have to clear my cache again.
Jim, that particular screen, you may want to try to go in from a different way. I've noticed that it's hard to zoom in on that screen.
It's not zooming in.
Yeah, there's a way to get around it, and I forget exactly how to do that.
Let me just click this, see what happened. Okay, it looks like the eyeglasses are broken. You know, it's one of the problems with the prototype that keeps changing. But what we have is the BYOID
Okay. Yeah.
here. And
All right. Well, yeah. See, now something like town square doesn't help here because that's really not a part of BY. I mean, it's part of the forum structure, but it's not part of the project structure.
Yes, but that doesn't mean all the other circles here should not be major components of BYOID. And
right. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. That's a good one. Attest to a claim command. There we go.
Okay, creating a structure of channels here that correspond to all the major components of the system.
Right, but that's the part we need to. I mean, if we're going to prioritize anything, to me anyway,
yes.
That's the first thing. What we need to prioritize is defining the components. Once they're defined,
and once
they're defined, we can let people go and work on what you want to work on. And yeah, what'll happen? Three of the 5 components will get built real quick because people are excited about it. 2 of them will sit there because no one wants to do it. Well, once those first 3 are done, now you get everybody back together and say, "Great, good work, guys. But if we want to move this forward, somebody's got to do this."
And our sponsors have a choice as to which activities they're going to support, and that's how we can possibly help prioritize things.
Well, if there's rewards involved, that will help the self prioritization.
Yes, there are. We just need somebody to facilitate here, create the right channels, create the activities in the channels, and continue the development of the social ledger and these social objects, so that we can give them behavior. We can model the dependencies between them. We can make them intelligent objects, okay, by defining their behavior in terms of what they do or what they can't do.
Okay, but here's the problem. I mean, because right now the bubble, the diagram that we have now is mapped off of Mattermost. It's mapped off of channels. Can you define sub-channels under a channel?
No, but you can create separate teams with as many channels as you want.
Okay, so once I have, let's go. All right, open up Uport, for example. We'll just pick Uport. All right, what does that look like? Where is that on the bubble diagram?
Maybe nowhere. Let's see if any activities. Okay, there's one activity, so it's on the bubble diagram.
Okay, so if you click on that now, where can we see what that looks like on the bubble diagram?
Let me just see if there's a team.
Oh, that's the attest to a claim. It's there. We saw that. Okay. We did see that. We did see that. That was the one you showed us before, I think.
It has no team, and it should have a guide, a scribe, and a link, which could be the same person, but ideally would be 3 people.
Can you explain me more about Uport? Is this related to the product that is BYOD, which is already out there? Uport?
Uport is the Ethereum identity and that we're using right now. We like them, and we like the meta contract capability they're coming out with. And Uport is an important identity for BYOID because our token, the tokens we're dealing with are Ethereum tokens primarily, and the dashboard will, include Ethereum capability as well as possibly others like Holochain and Sovereign, part of Hyperledger, which does zero knowledge proofs, by the way.
Okay, Jim, do me a favor. All right, on your screen, what are we looking at now? Can you click on the eyes on that diagram?
Yeah, the eyes may be broken. If I make a commitment, it zooms in.
Oh, and see, here, let me show you. Yeah, that's interesting. Yours zoomed in, right, on the eyes.
Yeah.
All right, I just tried to do that, and I got an error.
Yeah, Bob, you probably need to clear your cache. Whether or not that Zoom works it's about a 50-50 proposition.
The error I got is your connection is not secure. The owner of DivvyDAO.org has configured their website improperly. To protect your information from being stolen, Firefox is not connected to this website.
Ah, Firefox.
This site uses HTTP strict transport security to specify that Firefox may only connect to it securely. As a result, it is not possible to add an exception for this certificate.
What? Where is?
Give me the screen for a second. I'll let you read exactly what I'm seeing. Now I'm using Firefox, so.
Let's see.
And you'll notice it is an HTTPS connection, so I'm not sure what's not secure about it. I can click this advanced and see what it says.
Now, all of our security problems were solved by certificate problems were solved by.
All right, to learn more is useless. Okay. What does advanced do? Uses an invalid security certificate. The certificate expired on Wednesday, October 25th.
Ah, that's new.
Here we go.
That's impossible. I get a warning if a certificate's not it's not
I thought you guys fixed that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Brian fixed it.
Well, this is only a week old. This certificate failure is less than a week. It'll be a week tomorrow.
But if it fails to renew a certificate, I get an email. I didn't get any email. What is it? What's the command, damn it? Does anyone remember offhand the Let's Encrypt command name? I guess I have to search it.
All right, what's the fastest way to clear cache in Firefox? Anybody?
I would go to settings and then
I'm wondering if we're being attacked. Let's see.
Well, we were this morning.
I would think it would be in privacy and security, right?
Certbot. I couldn't remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my clear cache if I would like to do that, but that's offline web.
Oh.
That's offline cache.
DivvyDAO.org could not be renewed.
Oh, you did find something, huh? All right, well, I'll let you figure that out going forward, but so I guess the point is to define activities within each of these, within each of the channels. Is what
Correct.
we're talking about doing. Okay.
Right.
Now,
And
can those be further broken down?
we're adding metadata so that you'll be able to edit metadata associated with it as a first.
Well, no. I'm just, again, I'm just thinking from a standpoint of defining a project and defining components. All right. If I define activities here, then there'll be a bunch of activities living under the U-port bubble, and that's good.
Yeah.
But
Well,
can I then break down? But can I break down one of those activities into smaller activities? You know, with nested bubbles.
No, not exactly. The way it breaks down right now is that you know, we link the activity to a GitHub issue, and then we
Okay, but we're limited to one layer of activities.
Yeah.
Under one channel, under one Mattermost blob. All right, is what you're saying right now, anyway. I can't go more than 3 layers deep.
Right. The primary channel, the town square, whatever you call it,
Right.
is considered the main.
And then I can define one layer of bubbles under that, and that's it.
Right.
Okay. Not ideal, but
What we do is we link to another team. You know, we for the activity there, we have a link to the team, you know, to the place where it's broken down. Like, for example, the BYOID activity in other places would all go to the BYOID, point to the BYOID team with all its breakdown. So within the BYOIT, we could have a link to the U-port team that broke down all the U-port stuff.
oh, okay, but that's not going to give you a visual image of the whole project. Is what I'm.
Not yet, okay,
Okay, yeah.
but we will. There is a link when things link in the social ledger. Okay, we're you know, our intention is to provide navigation between those. So and we do, and you know, in the dashboard, when you click on it, you're going to get it in the holonic diagram. We don't have a way to do that yet, and that's a little different.
The diagram, the software that generates that diagram, where does that come from?
It's open source, and I keep forgetting the name of it. It's real simple, like oh boy. I mean, there's a couple of different libraries that do this, and I forget the name of the one we use. But Joachim has done some customization on it. Some things are a little hard to do. It's like when he puts the team links in there, your cursor, they're not always active when your cursor's over them. So there's some issues there, but it's open source anyway. We should be able to fix it. But yeah, we would want to be able, you know, if there was a whole U-port team, and when you clicked on that little U-port circle, you would want to basically zoom to that other team.
Yeah, but again, that doesn't, from a standpoint of visualizing the project and where it is, that doesn't help, because now you keep getting brought someplace else entirely. You don't get a chance to see in one place what's done, what's not done, what needs to be worked on. All right, so what I'm getting at is, I think, to me anyway, a bubble diagram is right. This bubble diagram isn't the one that I need to do what I'm talking about.
Can you create a bubble diagram for a team?
Well, what I'm talking about is a bubble diagram that has a little more breakdown capability, and if I have to go to the raw source code and build one, then maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, what DigLife is doing, is using what is it, Kumu? One of the things that's being planned is exporting the Kumu, exporting the social ledger data circles into Kumu. In the projects, the network maps, I'll just show this. You know, this is the projects map, which we this doesn't do the circles, huh? But this allows you to get all different views of things, which is pretty powerful. Oh, you didn't see it.
Looks nice.
Oh, HJ joined us.
Hey.
Hey, hello. Gary, you got your rook.
Oh, I did. I haven't looked yet. Thank you. Hey,
Was
Day.
quick action. Nice.
Excellent, excellent.
Exciting.
It is. I'll go look now.
So we do want to converge in, you know, like you said, you know, we're sort of managing between GitHub and the social ledger with links, where we have the further breakdown, so to speak, in the GitHub, and the using ZenHub Canboard there, and we're actually looking to integrate Canboard into the social ledger. Is our current thing, and if you look at Canboard, it has a lot of plugins and capabilities that I think you'll really appreciate, Bob.
Oh no! Like I said, the only real problem I have with a Canboard or any kind of Kanban structure is by putting tasks in a list. You know, by visually just having, you know, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing, going down a line. All right. Conceptually, there's no order to those. They're just what order did you put them together in? And I know you can move them around. But again, visually and subconsciously, all right, you end up with something that looks like it's an ordered list.
Yeah, well,
and if the list is bigger than a page, you don't even see everything unless you take the time and trouble to scroll.
Yeah, but you know, and to some extent, what you're trying to do, you can't do in 2-dimension. I mean, it's a network. But that kind of browsing is, you know, and drilling in is certainly doable. Just you can't do it on a flat picture.
Yeah. I'm looking for a new tool here that could actually become part of the Divvy toolbox. for defining or for laying out a project in this kind of environment, in a self-starter environment.
All right. So let's move on. HJ, what's your frustrations and excitements this week?
Oh, yeah. My biggest frustration is that that I've been elected for the board only on the 8th place. I thought I would end up a bit higher, but okay. I'm a member of the board now.
Awesome. So now you have fiduciary responsibility to the board.
Yeah, yeah. I hope I can influence them a bit.
So does that mean we're still going to get paid for our GitHub issues?
Sorry, if I get paid for it, or?
You do, so are we still going to get paid for our GitHub issues?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm having a bit of problems with the CFO because she finds it a ridiculous situation. That's because she thinks she's spending dollars, and well, in fact, it's their own coin.
Yeah.
So they only get value when they are accepted in the street. So you must get them out in the street.
Right. She doesn't get it, huh?
And it doesn't cost you anything. But if you say, well, for October I need 250,000 ROC, then she converts it to $50,000, and that's a lot of money. Yeah.
What's the latest on the limit of ROC distribution that was voted by the members?
Oh, yeah. I'm not so happy with that decision. I think they want to burden ROC, and it's only 200 million ROC that can be spent this year.
Didn't they already spend that?
No, we are way off. So, but these financial people think that if you burn ROC, then the ROC gets more value. But it's like marbles, If you have all the marbles, then you cannot play. So you must distribute the marbles, and then you can play.
Yeah, it's we're changing from a model of scarcity to a model of abundance, and we're not quite up yet.
Yeah. Anyway,
investors don't like to see abundance, though. Abundance translates as lack of demand.
Right, but we're using the abundant resource of human potential to populate the galaxy and beyond. We don't have limitations past.
Yeah, you do have a limit, and the limit is that the people who have the money don't look at that as having inherent value.
That's why we make our own money. We're
So they have to understand that time is more valuable than dollars. Anyway, so that were my biggest happy moments and frustrations. And well, one thing is that we have to get the rewards done for October, and that's a huge task. Because nobody seems to, or maybe the system is too difficult, but it's difficult to get people into the spreadsheet.
Yeah, and everything we're doing, I mean, I just can't get people to type /dig. Kendall's big frustration was he can't get people to fill out the task system. On every front, we're facing this problem, and certainly I want to help you, HJ. I just need little pushes every now and then. you know, and I don't think we should get mad. We just have to, you know, persist in giving little reminders and pushes.
But with Gary, it worked wonderful. So
Yeah.
he filled out his W9 and 2 invoices. So it was a great pleasure.
Yes, it wasn't that bad at all. So don't put it off. If it did wear me out, though. I had to take a nap in the middle of it, HJ. So that's what took me so long.
Okay. But I think the system will become, in a few months, it will become very popular, I think, if people get the go of it. Because like in Holland, we want to organize an art chain seminar in April. And I think I'm going to make an issue out of it and then get it going. So that's meant for IT companies like Arthur Andersen, Accenture, Atos, Capgemini, etc., and for the government. So that we want to present some use cases of RChain, and it goes in the direction of how you can replace a local area network that's private to the company, and so that you have also databases open in the wild, but protected by encryption and access policies. So I hope we can do that. That's my update, more or less.
Okay. So have we, what else do we want to talk about?
I'd like to hear from Suchi, how do you say it, about what, I'm sorry?
Suchit.
Suchit. So welcome to the meeting. It's good to see a new face in the meeting. What brings you to Divvy?
So I actually work with Kendall. We are working on a greater chain project. We are building something for insurance providers here. And Kendall mentioned me about DivvyDAO, and I've been on the platform for a while now. And just Tuesdays are very hectic for me. I'm usually working in the morning. So this week, actually, I was free. I was like, why not join the meeting and learn more about the projects that are going on in the community? So that's why I joined in today, and I'm really excited about things that are going on here. I had some of the good ideas in my mind until I saw these documents, and everything is laid out here. I mean, Byzantine, Uport, IPFS. I work on all these things at the moment. I'm primarily working with Ethereum and working on Solidity language. I've been just doing this, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with Uport also. So that's why I asked earlier whether BYOD is sort of tied to Uport, or is it just a concept? I'm really excited about this community, and I think I'm probably going to be joining in every week.
Perhaps you can earn a bounty helping coaching with a work study on BYOID. Uport. We're basically just trying to get a few of us through the process of going through the examples on the Uport website and seeing how we attest to a claim and conceptualizing how we're going to create the identities for our communities and the membership of those communities, which we certainly can do. Create a Uport or an organization, or for anything we want an identifier for. But I guess structuring structuring the communities, handling, seeing how we're going to handle voting, and those things as well.
Yeah, I think identity piece is extremely important for any application that we develop. We require to identify our audience, KYC, and UPort provides that. And I think BYOD, I need to sort of understand more about how BYOD is tying up to UPort.
Yeah, well, you'll be able to essentially log in to your user agent with UPort, or if you allow it, with Mattermost. Okay, yeah, we have the service discovery, you know, how you're authenticated, and that will tie the, just tying the UPort membership to the contract. And then what we want to do is use the UPort meta contracts so that we can pay the ETH for someone joining the system. Okay. In other words, having them, you know, go through the process of getting Bitcoin and selling it and getting ETH to put it out. We want to use the meta contracts to pay the gas for them developing their identity. Okay, it's part of, we're trying to reward identity, and we'll pay a little bit of ETH in the way in order to simplify the onboarding process. People.
That's beautiful. I'm really looking forward to learning more about this, maybe contributing.
I'm really really happy that you're joining us, and if you could maybe send me a direct message in Mattermost or whatever as to when you might be available for a work study where we can take our next dive into UPort. And we actually did okay as far as we got. We were following the instructions on the UPort site and getting to the point where we're starting to work with claims, but it would be good to have somebody who is a little more familiar with it to.
Yeah, I've been dabbling with it. I was in Canada earlier this month, and I was working along with the UPort team. There was a hackathon over there in Waterloo, and I was just working along with the UPort team, and they sort of showed me how to integrate with it on the command line, just using Web3. It was very interesting, and since then I've been just sort of working on and off on UPort. At the moment, I'm sort of personally I'm building, apart from other initiatives, I'm building a geolocation tracking platform. So that just like how Google allows you to track your geolocation and then location history and then shows you, but they make money on top of the analytics. So what I'm doing is I'm making it decentralized. So you store your own private geolocation data. And for logging into this application, I've been trying to integrate UPort to identify who my customer is. So I think UPort is a very strong. UPort is just one piece. I think from what I understood from BYOD, I think it's very similar to UPort, or maybe an alternative of UPort. So just like how you can go to the application and say connect with UPort, I was thinking that you can also say connect with Mattermost, and the technology behind Mattermost is BYOD. That's how I was interpreting it. But I think it would be exciting to learn more about this.
Awesome. Guess what? I'm late for a meeting. I'm supposed to be at the Holochain meeting now for quite some time. I'm very late.
In that case, I guess we're done, right? We're just about. Can we get quick impressions from anybody and everybody about how this meeting went? Anybody?
Very good.
I agree with the thumbs up. I think we're starting to get things into better shape. I'm really excited, Suchit, that you're here. I think you're going to add a lot, so that's awesome. So I think it went really well.
Okay. With that, I'm going to end the meeting. If there's any other further comments, please comment in the Mattermost. Let's get some activity there and some structure, and we should, all should be good. Things are coming together in a lot of different areas, and I can feel, we got Ian, Jake, and Brian, and now Suchit, and this is all very positive. Take care, folks. Sorry, I have to cut this short.
Bye. Have a good meeting.
Bye bye.
Take it easy, folks.